Welcome back to the Arbitrous YouTube channel. In today's class, we are going to learn how to make this beautiful ASYMMETRIC collar BUBU. As you can see, it has like an asymmetric neckline in which the collar, one side of the collar is wider than the other. I'm going to take you through how I cut and sew this in this class. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so we are using this fabric for the BUBU, and then we're going to be using this plain ASYMMETRIC for the collar. So I have already folded this on the table, but I'm going to use this another fabric to show you because I don't want to disrupt this. So the fabric I'm using is 45 inches in length, and the length of this BUBU is 60. So we are not going to be taking the length here. We are going to be taking it on the yardage side where you can see as much as you need. So here, all you need to do on your yardage side, you are going to measure your 60 inches. So once you have 60 inches, you are going to fold into two, which means you have your front and back together. I don't want it to have a shoulder seam. So I'm going to be cutting my front 60, my back 60 together. So when you have it folded like this, you're going to go ahead now and fold again into two. So you're going to have a fold of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your front and back is going to be together. I'm making this as a bulk order, so I've made a few. I just thought to show a tutorial on it. So this is it here. The length I have here is 60, and then the width is the width of my Ankara fabric, which, as I mentioned earlier, is 45. So because we have folded the width into two now, what we will have is about 22 and a half. Can you see? I have exactly 22 and a half inches here on the width. So that is how to fold your fabric. It's very simple. It's a BUBU. So we'll just go ahead down and cut the neckline. So here for the neckline, I'm going to be working with a neck width of 3 inches and a neck depth of 1.5 inches for the back. 1.5 inches for the back, and then for the front, depending on how deep, you know, it's like a V neckline, depending on how deep you want it to be, but I'm just going to be working with around 8 to 9 inches. So let me just leave it here. It's around 8.5 inches for my back. So you're going to take your curved ruler and then connect for your neckline. So this is my back neckline, and then for the front, depending on how wide you want your collar to be, remember it has like an asymmetric neckline on the neck. One side is long, while the collar of one side, let me brighten it. So the collar of one side is wider than the other. So you're going to work with the shortest to get your collar width. Okay, so now this is what we are trying to achieve. You will need the shortest part to get your width for your front collar. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark it. Mine is 2 inches. I'm going to mark the 2 inches. Yours can be whatever it is you want the shortest collar side to be, and then you connect it to your neck width just like that. So with that, you're going to have your front neckline as well. So after this, now you will go ahead. Once you cut the initial collar, you can now extend for the other one. So for my arm opening, I'm working with 12 inches and I marked it there, and on that point I'm going to mark the widest part of my body, which is my hip. Then hip divided by 4, I'll mark it. Then you had your ease for the BUBU. I added extra 5 inches to my hip divided by 4. So you're going to mark whatever you have all together, and then you're going to take that measurement all the way to the hem. Okay, you're going to mark it. So if your hip divided by 4 is 11 and you had that 5 inches to it, you have 16. So you're going to mark the 15 inches all the way to your hem, and then you make it into a straight line. So on the armhole area, you are going to take your curved ruler or your free hand, and then you curve them into each other so that you not have a sharp edge. So once you have all of that, the next thing is to go ahead and grab your scissors, and then you're going to just cut out what you have. So you're going to cut it straight, and then once you get to the armhole area, you're going to curve your hand just like that. So I'm going to cut my neckline as well. You cut your back neckline first, and then you're going to open it up so that you'll be able to cut the front. So once you open it up, you make sure that everything aligns well. You're going to arrange it properly. You can see I'm holding my shoulder so that it does not shift. So you make sure you arrange everything the way it's supposed to be, and then you take out your front neckline. So once you cut it out, you have the measurements for the shortest collar, which is 2 inches. Now we're going to open everything out so that we can measure for the other collar, which is the asymmetric part, the white collar. So once you open it up, the first thing you need to choose is which side you want your asymmetric side to be. Can you see? Do you want it on the right, on the left? You need to note that, and maybe you can measure this on the right side so that you don't get confused. If you are measuring on the wrong side, it means if you want it on the right, you mark on the left. I hope you understand that. So the first important thing is to get the midpoint. That's your center point for both front and back. You are going to need it when you want to sew your collar. So I'm just folding it into two, and then I'm placing a tiny notch at my center front before I widen the collar, because once you widen the collar, you'll not be able to know your center front again. So you can either iron it for a crease line, or you just place a notch like that. So for to be extended by 2.5. So from where my actual initial neckline stops, I'll mark 2.5 inches to whatever side. If you are putting it on the right side, you mark it to the right side. You are going to do the same thing on the front neckline as well, and then you are going to connect the 2.5 inches together like this. Okay, I marked 2.5 inches on my neckline. I marked it on my neck depth as well. So you are going to be connecting it to your center front, so to your center back. That's why we made that notch. You can use your free hand, or you can use a curve. You are going to connect that new neck width to your center back, and then for the front as well, you are going to connect it to the line that you already have on your front. So once you connect it, you are going to cut everything out. So you can see I'm cutting the front, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut it on the back as well. So once you cut it out, this is what you are going to be having. One side of your neckline is going to be wider than the other. So for your collar, you are going to mark around your neckline to get the length of your collar. For me, I have about 27.5 inches, but because I'm working with Ashoke, I'm going to cut out 30 inches. And then for the width, now you are going to be working with the widest collar. In this case, we have around 4 inches for the widest collar. Remember, the initial one was 2 inches, so we have about 4.5 inches now. Sorry. So because Ashoke is not wide enough, I had to join two together so that I can have my width. So now I'm going to fold it into two, and then you're going to be working with the 4.5 inches, which is your widest collar, and add 1/2 inch to it. So first I'm going to mark my length, which in this case is 30 inches. Remember, I'm adding extra for the frailing of the Ashoke. So I'm going to cut out the 30 inches, and then now you're going to refold for the width. So for the width now, you're going to measure your widest collar, which is 4.5 inches, and then you add 1/2 inch for joining. So I'm marking out 5 inches. So after marking this out, now you are going to now reshape for the small collar. Remember, the small collar is 2 inches, so you are going to reshape for that small collar, and then you find a way to link it back to the wide collar. So I'm just marking the 1/2 inch there, and then I'm going to link it just like this. Can you see? So you can actually link it anyhow. I'm maintaining a small collar at the center back because I don't want the collar too high at the center back, so that it's not going to be touching the head of the person. So from that center back, I'm just going to link it back to the wide part, just like this. So it's pretty simple. So once you do that, you're going to take your scissors, and then you're going to cut that out. So you're going to cut it out. So once you cut it out, you can see that I added 1/2 inch allowance to it, so that I can sew it easily. So once you cut it out, you are going to sew your collar around it. So when you want to sew your collar, remember we joined the asoke. Make sure that the part that has the joining is where you are putting inside. The part that has the joining should be inside, not outside. And when you want to sew the asoke, you need to leave like half an inch for turning before you sew. So I'm on my machine now, and I'm just sewing the asoke with the half an inch allowance that I added. I'm going to sew it all around the neckline. It's important that you leave that half an inch. Like I said, asoke frays a lot. You can even leave more than half an inch, so that even if it's fraying, you will still have enough to turn your turn your neckline. So I'm going to sew it all around, just as you can see. So you're going to sew from one end to the other gently. So also I advise that if you are working with asoke, once you sew, you should weave immediately. If you don't weave it, it's going to fray. So you can see I'm on the weaving machine now, and I'm weaving it immediately. If you don't weave it, it's going to fray and it's going to give you issues. So you can explore other fabrics like mikado. With that, you'll be able to do what you want to do. But if you are working with asoke like me, once you sew your asoke, or once you even cut the asoke, you can just take it to your weaving machine and then seal it up, so that it just does not continue fraying. So now I have weaved it. I'm back on the table, so I'm just going to simply tuck in the excess collar like that. You can see that half an inch will just show itself. So I'm going to tuck it in. Once you tuck it in, you can iron it so that it can form a crease line, and then I'm going to raise the fabric up so that I can pick it under, and then you take it to your sewing machine and sew. I believe this part is easy because we have done something like this severally on the channel. So you're going to take it together and then you sew. So you can go ahead and pin it first before you take it to your sewing machine to sew. So I'm just making sure that everything meets at the midpoint. Remember, we notched our center front, so the two collars should meet at the center front, so that one will obviously be bigger. So once you pin it, you turn it back to check if it's okay, and if you are okay with it, take it to your sewing machine and sew. And after you sew, you are going to weave it again. Okay, I have sewn mine and I have also weaved it. As you can see, if you don't weave it, it's going to fail. So once you weave it, you can now take your iron and then give it a good press before you cut the second part of the asoke. So once you are done with this, now I want to go and cut my asoke. So I'm trying to measure what I have there, because that's going to be the width of the asoke. They are going to double it. I have around 4.5 inches there. I'm doubling it and I have 9 inches. So I'm going to bring the rest of my asoke and then check if I have up to 9. So I have up to 9, and I don't want to cut it because of fraying. So I'm just going to fold the excess inside. And the length of this asoke is 13 inches. So the length is 13 inches while the width is 9.5 inches. So you need to add your seam allowance to that. So I'm just checking to make sure that from the center like this, the center has to align, and then the side also have to align to the asoke like that. So for the short one, you're just going to leave out the excess like that. So now the next thing is to shape the hem of the asoke. So I'm coming up by 2 inches, and then I'm just going to connect it to form like a basket effect, like a V effect on the hem of the asoke. So after that, you are going to fold in the seam allowance, and then you take it to your ironing table and iron it down first, so that it's going to be easy for you to sew. So once you iron it down, you just sew it like that, and then fold it over and top stitch on it. It will become easy for you. So ironing is very important. Once it is probably ironed, to sew it is going to be pretty much easy, and then you're going to have something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and iron mine like that. So once you have that, the rest is easy. You just sew the side, and that's all. So you can see now that I have folded in my own seam allowance. I have ironed it, and it's now laying very flat for me. So now I'll be able to sew it to my ashoke. So for the upper part, I'm not going to be top stitching on it. You can also top stitch, but for me, I'm not going to top stitch on mine. So I'm just going to flip that upper part like that, and then I'm going to sew on it. So once you sew on it and you take it back, you can now top stitch on the rest of the ashoke. It's that simple. Another way to sew it, if you don't want to flip, is just to place this on your collar and then you just top stitch all around it. But I just feel I prefer it this way. So I'm going to pin that, sew it first, and then once I sew it, I cannot top stitch around it to hold the ashoke to the fabric. Can you see? I've sewn it, so now I'm on the machine, and then I'm going to go ahead and top stitch all around the ashoke. So once you do this, you are done with your dress. If you want to fix pocket to it, you fix your two side pockets, and then you hem the sleeve and close the side. So that is pretty much all you need to do. We have done this type of ashoke before on the channel. The only difference is the asymmetric collar that this has. It has one of the collar being it has a shorter width compared to the other. So once you are done with your collar, you close the, make sure that that side is aligning. Can you see? It has to be on the same line. You have to make sure that you have the white collar and the new one you are introducing on the same line. And once you are done sewing it, this is what you're going to have. This is what the back looks like. You can see how beautiful it is looking and how simple it is to make it. This is what it looks like in the front. I hope you enjoyed making this with me, and I added two inseam pockets to mine, so you can decide to add pockets to it or not if you want. So I made this is for a bulk order, so I made a lot of it, and I even lost some clips. I hope you are able to grab one or two from this. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section and I'll be happy to help. I hope you enjoyed making this with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.